and welcome back to the channel. Now this video is going to be a bit longer and a bit more difficult than my other ones, but it's really exciting what we're going to manage to do here. We are going to make an app like this, and what will happen is we'll upload images and it will automatically remove the license plate, blur it out, and it will also blur people's faces. So it's going to automatically make these images more private, more anonymous, and it's a really cool and exciting use case. Now, of course, we'll be using Adalo. Another thing we'll be using is Integromat. And the last thing we'll use is Brighter.ai, which has a free trial, and if you use the affiliate code I'm going to put in the description, you'll get a longer free trial. You'll get a 2-week free trial instead of 1 week, which is really good for you guys. Also for Integromat, if you don't already have it, it is like Zapier, but I prefer it and it's a lot cheaper than Zapier. Again, I've got an affiliate link for Integromat. If you guys can look in the description and maybe pause the video and do that now, so you're ready to follow, that would be awesome. So we've got Brighter.ai, we've got Integromat, and we've got Adalo, of course. So to quickly introduce the app here, we can input a car here. Okay, we can input a car. We've got a page. Our home page displays the cars we have with a button to go here to add a new car. This is really straightforward stuff, but, and there's a big but, what we need to pay attention to. There is a problem with Adalo in that once we upload an image, we can't manipulate that from a third party. The solution to this is to have, here's our cars collection, we've got our normal image field. This is what we normally do when we play with our apps on Adalo. Now I've created a text field called image URL. We are going to use this field instead of the normal image field most of the time. So when we upload the car here, we can see we've got the normal image field and the name that we're going to enter. So we'll get the image picker, everything like normal here, and the name here. But when we press create car on the submit button, we're going to create a car, okay, with the fields like we'd expect. But then we're going to link to this new screen here, screen 2. It's a blank screen, and it's there so we can put an action on this blank screen, and it's going to update the car, okay, and it's going to populate this image URL field with current car image URL, and then link back to the home page. And everywhere we've got an image here, we are not displaying it from the normal database image. We choose URL and then choose current car image URL. And the same on this list here, which is displaying our cars. So once we've done that step of uploading the car in the first place, the image field we're not really using. We're doing everything with this image URL field. So by doing that straight away, we've avoided a big problem. Okay, so where to next? So if we probably set up Integromat next, let's get going. We're going to need webhooks. So select that. We're going to need HTTP. We're going to need tools. We're going to need IMGBB, and I think that covers everything. So let's continue. First thing we are going to want to do is create a custom webhook. Okay, Okay, so we can press add. Okay, drop down, add a hook here. So let's call it redact image. Save. We now have a webhook here which we can copy to the clipboard. We go back to Adalo and right, we should run this action on. What I'm going to do, just to be safe, is make a second blank screen where it's running this action. So let's remove that link and add a new one to a new screen, which is going to be another one. Let's call it action blank. Okay, now this screen, actions, add action, custom action, new custom action, redact plate and faces. It's going to be a create, and we're going to put in that hook, that webhook from Integromat here. The method, I believe this is post. Okay, we'll soon find out if it's not. And right, so we're going to need the JSON. I'll see if it'll work just to test the webhook here. Okay, good. So we've got that already. But we're going to have to add some data. We're going to need to pass that URL through, and we're going to have to maybe pass the, maybe we don't need the name, maybe just that image URL. So let's go back here and let's put in some JSON. So image URL can be an input here called image URL. We do need an example value, which I'm okay. A moment to get a photo. So here we've got, let's open that in a new tab. So I just found an image, and it's an image of a car, and we can be using that as an example. So let's copy that, wrong button. Let's copy image address and use that for the example URL on our custom action. Okay, there we go. It's linking directly to a JPG file, so that will be useful. And now we've got that input there. We can add magic text here for that. So this is all pretty set up. We've got the JSON, and it's going to be sending the image URL. So let's run test. Let's go back here and redetermine data structure. Once we do a change, every time you want to redetermine that data structure to make sure everything's okay. That didn't work because I assume because Integromat wasn't listening. So let's try again. There we go, successful, and here, successful. That's what we need. So let's press OK. Okay, and hopefully we have some data we can use, which will be URL. So next thing, we need HTTP get a file. We need the file data from that, and it's going to come from a URL. We've just got that from our webhook, so we put the URL there. Okay, then we need another HTTP, will be make a request. Okay, at this point we need to start using Brighter AI. Now, I didn't tell you much about this, but it took me a long time to find. It was the first API I could find that was easy to use, not overcomplicated, did exactly what I wanted straight out the bag, and it's not expensive either. To look at the pricing, you've got a free trial for 1 week, but if you use the code in the description of this video, you will get 2 weeks instead. So as you can see, there's a reasonable pricing structure after that, which I'm perfectly happy with for my use case. So we want to go on free trial. Set up on Brighter.ai, you're going to get a trial API key here. Okay, and you're going to have the API docs, which are going to help us to get started. So let's have a look here. So on this request, this is where we are going to connect with the API. Right, on their API there's 3 things. 1, you submit the file. Then in the background, Brighter.ai is going to process it, so there's another request we can make to check if it's ready. And the 3rd part is downloading the result, which makes it a little bit more complicated. So let's look here. So let's copy our URL and put it here. We're going to be using post method. We will need headers for authorization, I believe. So IPS subscription key, and the value, that value should be the trial key here. So add that header. Query string, I don't think we need, but we need body type, multi-part form data. We're going to need a file. Now that's going to come from our previous module, which was http get a file. The key, we can type file. And I'm just going to tick pass response as well here. Right, so what we've done, we've got the request from Adalo. It contains the image URL. We've converted the URL into a file again. Then we've sent this file over to the API. I was telling you that API here, it takes a moment for it to be ready. And that's why they've got this section for checking the status. Now, I didn't want to really overcomplicate it by checking and then a yes, no if it's ready. So what I found in my testing, if I just made it wait for 5 seconds, it's going to be ready. In my testing, it obviously won't be in every case, but it was working well for me. So I'm going to add a module to sleep. Okay, how many seconds? Let's call it 6. 6 seconds. Right, and that's our next module. Now we've waited, so our file should be ready. Let's get another HTTP, make a request. This request is going to be, which GET request we need, and we need a URL. This URL will be to download back to the API docs. Let's get the URL. Okay, you can see here we've got that, and then we've got this, your output ID. So let's show you what that is. When we made the request, that will return to us an output ID, and that output ID is what it's an identifier for our picture, which is being processed. So when we go to download it, we need that output again. Right, so I'm going to run another request from Adalo, so we'll see what happens. Actually, I don't need to do that. Maybe I can just press run once. Okay, I'm going to unlink that so I'm not getting an error. Okay, run once. Now this is waiting for my data. We can still use my test data here. Successful. So let's see, this is all running now. Okay, everything seemed to work. So let's link this up again and see if we've got any different available data. And we do, we've got that output ID, because now we've run this, Integromat has seen that data be returned, and now we can use it. So get the download result URL, put it here, and then replace that, your output ID, with the output ID. So now this request is asking for the specific image file that we've sent to it. Headers, we're going to have the name again of IPS-subscription-key, and the value of trial key. Right, and I don't think we need to send anything in the body. Okay, we've sent the output ID in the URL. I don't think we're required to send anything else. Now, we're going to get some data back. We're going to get some raw data. So what do we do with that? We need to upload it once we get it back. That's why I've got image BB as a module, upload a photo. I'm going to run Adalo again, so run once here on Integromat, then I'm going to run the test request. Adalo is going to send our example picture again to Integromat. Successful, everything's running, is it? Yeah, okay, everything seemed to work fine. Now let's see what we got. It's looking for source file, but I want to know output bundle data file size. Map, okay, map file name, and we need it from this make a request, not the previous one we had earlier. So there we go. So you can see when I'm hovering here, this one is wobbling around, so we can see that's the correct one. So this is what we need. File name I don't really mind what that is. It could even be the file size, it doesn't matter, I don't think. And then the data, so we've got a file name and the raw data, and image BB is going to upload it. And at the end, we're going to need a webhook response. This is what sends data back to Adalo. And status, I did 200. We're going to have some JSON for image URL. And in here, we're going to have, I would have thought this one. I'm going to add a custom header here because I did when I practiced last time. And content type value application /JSON add. Okay, so at this point we've received the data from Adalo, and we're at the stage where we're sending a URL back, which should be an image without the license plate and faces. Well, they'll be there but blurred out. So let's just run it once here and check that everything on Integromat is working. So I've clicked on run once and run test request. Okay, you can see it's doing its 6-second sleep. Okay, we've had a problem here. Invalid file name in the parameter file name. Wow. Okay. Right. Well, we need to grab the file name from earlier, I guess. Right. So let's use a file name from somewhere else. So anywhere we've got a file name, there we go. Okay, much better. It wants a real file name. Let's try this again. Run once. Back. Run test. That ran all the way through. And look at Adalo now. We have got an output here, which is a URL for an image. And look, it's a JPG file. So exciting. Let's hope this is working. Okay, save custom action. Now on this page we've got our custom action. Let's not forget to put the magic text, which is the current car image URL. Done. And let's link to the view cars screen after that's done. Now we have the custom action has now given us a URL. This here is the input that we're sending over to Integromat. We need after this to use that output data. So let's update the car again. Image URL. 1 second. Where we found our custom action output, which should have this picture that's been redacted. I just want to change that name to make sure I'm not confusing it with the original input. So I'm putting redacted in the name. And see, that is the output. So hopefully we should be able to use that on the next thing I do. Right. So let's add another action. Update current car image URL. I can't see it. Why isn't that there? A long time trying to figure out the problem. Now, when we have a custom action with an output, we expect that when we do something next, for example, I want to update the car with a new URL. We go to the magic text, and we will have our custom action in their options from the magic text up here, right? And there we go. This is exactly what we need. Okay. So what have I done different? I've added a button. Now this button runs the action and updates the car. Before, I was running all the actions on the actual page. So when the page opens, that happens. But for some reason, I wasn't getting that next, able to use that output. I couldn't see this here. That wasn't there. But I've added a button, and it seems to do the job. So let's just call this blur. Okay, because that's what it's doing. It's blurring stuff. Okay. So we've got it to run a custom action and then update the car with the new URL. And then we just want to link back to the home screen, the view cars. Okay, good. So maybe this could work now. Let's have a look. Preview. Okay, these are some previous ones I did while I'm playing around. So we're going to add new car. car 3. Now let's take, the reg plates are all showing on these cars basically, so let's pick one here. You can see in the middle there we've got a reg plate which needs to be blurred out. Create car. Okay, now if I press this button, it should blur it. And what have we got? It's blank. Why would it be blank? Update car. Image URL with... Okay, well it should have filled in that field with the redacted URL. So let's see what the database has from that last record on car 3. Car 3 image URL is empty. Right, now let's look at Integromat, and this should show the last operation, I think. I'm actually going to have a look and see what that URL is. From Integromat, what it's returning, what is it we're looking at. Okay, that was a previous one we did in an example. Okay, I think I know why that didn't work, and it's because Integromat is not switched on. Right, listen for new, let's ignore the existing one, and let's just do that again. Preview. New car. Right, let's do this one here. Car 4. Is this going to be the lucky car? Create car. Blur. Right, this is promising. You can see there's a wait, and a large reason for that is because the 6-second wait on Integromat. So that's not surprising, that's sort of good. But that has not blurred it. So again, let's look at our database. So the image, so that's very strange, because that's the first example of it not working. That's the first example of the API not working. Let's just try another one. I've done it again, Integromat not running. So actually, just to avoid that, I'm going to schedule it to just always be running. Right. Okay, let's do another one called create car. Right, Integromat is scheduled, switched on. This should work. I hope it does. Press blur. Wow, okay, we got there in the end. Wow, okay, so that's what we're expecting. Actually, I really don't understand why this one didn't work, but I never saw it fail before. There could be a reason for that. There's also a problem with that having a back arrow there, because back is taking it back to a loading screen. So we don't want that there, it's the home page. Okay, let's test it one more time. There we go, it worked perfectly. Let's try it with a face. I actually never tried it with a face. Let's try Rowan Atkinson. Let's get the save it. Okay, it's not a car, but let's see what happens. Got him. Let's blur him. Never seen it on a face. Let's see what happens. Wow, look at that. Okay. Alright, so sorry this video is really dragged on. It wasn't that easy, but we got there in the end, and hopefully you've learned something really useful here. What a great piece of automation that we can do through Adalo and Integromat. Don't forget to look in the description and use my link to get Integromat. Use my link to get the Brighter.ai. That is going to give you a longer trial, double the length of trial actually. So guys, thanks so much, and thank you for bearing with me. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.